Okay, let's talk about maintaining our instrument and taking care of it. Now, this instrument's expensive. You want to take really good care of it, and it's not like indestructible. It can be damaged, it can be broken. I've had students break their instrument and totally not repairable anymore, but that's like pretty drastic. A lot of times, if there's an issue with these little keys or something like that, you can take it to a repair place, a repair instrument repair shop, and they can fix most issues. But in order to avoid that and avoid spending money fixing your instrument, let's learn how to take care of it and make sure it's really, really great. And every once in a while, you might have something happen where you gotta get it taken care of, like a cork falls off or something. Maybe that wasn't like you did something really wrong. It just happens. It's like a car. You got to take your car in to get the oil changed. There's maintenance that has to happen. So sometimes those things just pop up. But let's talk about a few things. First thing I want to talk about is cork grease. Now, wherever there's a cork on your instrument, you want to put some cork grease on it if it's not moving well. Okay, if it fits on fine, like mine fits on pretty easily. I probably don't need to put cork grease on it. If you're sitting there going and just really trying to muscle it on there, put some cork grease on it. If your instrument's brand new, you're gonna need to put cork grease on it probably almost every time for a little while until it gets easier. So I'll show you how to do it right now. Now, cork grease a lot of times looks like chapstick, but it's not chapstick. So don't put it on your lips, and don't put chapstick on your corks. It's not the same thing. So just don't do that. Okay, I got my cork grease right here. Sometimes it comes in a little circle and you just use your finger to put some on. This one comes in what looks like a little chapstick container. And the best way to do it is you just put it on lightly, kind of spread it all around, push a little bit. If there's not enough, you can twist the bottom. And then it's best to go like this. You take your fingers and you kind of work it in. You kind of just work that in. And yes, you're going to get cork grease on your hands. Just, wipe it off on your pants. That's why God gave you jeans, so you can wipe it off. Or don't wipe it off on your neighbor, right? Or your grandma or something. Just wipe it off. It's fine. It's not going to damage anything. And then you got a little cork grease on there. And then, you see, even mine went on easier than it did before. I had to use less pressure. So maybe it was good that I did that. If yours goes on really easily, you don't need to use more cork grease. Really, if you use too much cork grease, two things could happen. One, your instrument could just fall apart. Like if I had way too much cork grease and I was holding it just by this and it fell, that would be really bad. You're just holding your instrument and it falls apart. That would be bad. The second thing is if you're always using way too much cork grease, it can get inside the cork down to the glue. That cork is glued onto the instrument. They have a special type of glue that they use, so don't just use normal stuff. And it can get in that glue and make it peel off. And then you got to get your cork replaced at a repair shop. Okay, so only use cork grease when you need to. The second thing I want to talk about is how to clean your instrument. So every time we first of all, never put your instrument in water. You might see other instruments like trumpets and trombones, some of the brass instruments, not saxophone, they can clean it in water, most of it, and that's fine. But clarinet, you can't do that because on the bottom of all of these little keys are these things called pads, right? And they're kind of hard to see, but you can look on your clarinet and you can see there's tiny little ones, there's tiny little pads, right, all over the place. And if those get wet, they'll tear. And then if they don't have a good seal, if they're torn, air will escape out of the instrument. And then when you have leaky pads, you got to go get them replaced, right? You go and you spend some money and they replace the little pads. And so if you swab your instrument out, it's going to help us not have to replace those as much. So in my case right here, I have my swab. And, this one's just made of a really thin cloth. And you can probably maybe even see through it. No, but I can kind of see through it when I'm looking. It's really thin. Some of them are made out of silk. That's actually really a great one. You'd think silk's expensive, but it's not. And, we're just going to swab them through our instrument. There's a long string, and then there's a weight at the end. I don't know if you can see it. There's just a little piece of metal threaded in there. Excuse me. And that helps us swab out the instrument. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. First thing is you're putting your instrument away, you take the reed off first. We know that. But when you're swabbing out, you never want to swab your mouthpiece. And that's because your mouthpiece, the inside of it, has a very special shape. And if you mess up the shape by running things through it a whole bunch, it'll wear down the plastic, and it'll change the way that the mouthpiece is supposed to function, and it won't work as well. So when you're swabbing, don't swab the mouthpiece, okay? And if you have some moisture in there, maybe like once a month, you can swab it out. And you got to make sure that you're really careful about that. And when you're swabbing this, which you shouldn't do hardly ever, make sure you're not swabbing the tip here either. Don't pull it against that tip, because if that changes or you wear some of it off, the reed won't vibrate very well. So don't swab the mouthpiece. You just take it off, and it's fine. It's a mouthpiece. Now, swabbing the rest of the instrument is really important. If you look through here, let's see if I can get it. There, you can see in the instrument, there's a little, let's see if I can see it. There's a little post. I don't know if you can see that very well. There, right there. There's a little post, and that post is from right here, right around here. And it's on the inside, and you want to make sure nothing gets stuck on that. So in order to make sure that doesn't happen, when we're swabbing through our instrument, you need to make sure this cloth is straight and it's not folded over. That's why it has to be really thin cloth, not thick, like not a t-shirt or something like that. You got to get a Clarinet swab. If it's folded over and it goes in really thick, it's going to get hung up on that post or just on the instrument, in the inside of the instrument, and it's going to get stuck. And it's not fun to get a swab unstuck from an instrument. If you ever get it stuck, try to bring it to someone like me or a repair place to get it out. If you just yank on it and try to fix it yourself, you might end up damaging things. So the way we do it is, I like to do it this way with the bell up. Some people like to do it this way. I think both ways probably work. I like doing it this way. I've heard a lot of clarinet players say this way is great. So we take that weighted end and we put it right through the bell, and we just kind of let it drop down, keep feeding it through until it sticks out right there. And then, very important, make sure this is all pulled out. If it's folded over and it goes in folded, it might get stuck. So I just take this and I pull it through, and I've swabbed out my instrument once. And you can do that 2 or 3 times. It doesn't take too long. Right, just pull through it a couple times. Okay, right. If I had a really loose corks and I was doing this, maybe you want to hold it in more of a steady place than I was. That way, the instrument won't fall apart. That would be bad. You're holding it by the bell, and the rest falls down. That's not a good thing. So you just pull it through 2 or 3 times, and your instrument's clean. Right, and what it is there's condensation on the inside of there. So the condensation would get into those pads, and the water of condensation would cause them to rip over time. That's why we do this. We want all the water outside of the instrument. Okay, and then when you're done with that, you want to make sure that this gets to air out a little bit. Sometimes people really just shove it all up in there and then put it in their bell. And I'm not a big fan of that, because then you're putting moisture back in. But, you want to just make sure this gets to air out before the next time you use it. A lot of people will kind of fold it over, go like this, kind of roll it up into a little piece, go like this, put it back in their case. And it should air out pretty okay there. If you take it out next time and realize it's still wet, maybe you need to try something different as far as storing it. And then I'm going to store that back in my case. I'm not going to put it on top of the instrument in the case. I've got a little spot, special little nook, little, I don't know. I've got a spot in the clarinet case for it. And that's how you swab out your clarinet, okay? And you got to do that every time you play. It's not good to skip it. Don't be, I'll swab it out every 5 times. No. But what that's going to cause is it's going to cause your pads to need to be replaced, and then you're spending more money, okay? So that's swabbing the instrument. The last thing I want to talk about is reeds, okay? You want to make sure you're taking care of these things. They're fairly inexpensive, and you can get really cheap ones and they'll sound cheap, or you can get a little more expensive ones and they'll probably sound better and be better reeds. But these things are very fragile. They're so thin, you don't want to break them, so you want to take care of them. It's best to put them in a case like this. Sometimes when you get them, they're going to come in a little package, and they're going to have a little clear plastic case. I don't have one with me now because I threw it away because I use this. And it's okay to store them in that. It's better than nothing. And it's better than leaving it on your instrument. Don't do that. You have to take your reed off every time. And you want to store it in something like this. This is just a double case. Sometimes you can get one with 4. It'll have this and another one. It'll be like a double of this. Or you can get a really fancy one that opens up and has lots of spots. But you want to make sure your reed case has little ridges and is flat here. The ridges allow the reed to dry out and air out properly, and the flatness helps the reed dry flat. If your reed doesn't dry flat, it can be wavy, and then it won't play as well. It won't be a good reed. So you gotta take care of your reeds. And the last thing I want to say about reeds is don't play on the same one over and over and over again. You should have 4 or 5 reeds that you're rotating through. Like, right, this time I'm going to play reed 1 or reed A. And then I put my instrument away. Next time I'm going to play reed 2, and then 3, and then 4. And then I'm going to go back to 1, and then 2, and then 3. If you just play one reed the whole time, 1, it's going to probably die out faster. And 2, if that one breaks, you kind of have to wear reeds in. You'll notice that after you play on it for a while, it'll feel better. So you got to have lots of good reeds ready at any time. And I guess very last thing I'll say, I know I already said that, is you should have plenty of reeds. Don't just have 2 or 1. Because then if that breaks, you can't play your instrument. Yeah, you got to have, I like to say, you should have 10 reeds. And if you get below like 6 or 7, then you need to buy some more. And buy them by the box, and you can buy them by a larger amount. Don't just buy 1 or 2 at a time. I mean, you can. I can't tell you how to spend your money. But, it's good to get them kind of in bulk. And that way you have plenty and you're good to go. All right. Well, that's how you take care of your instrument. You swab it out, take care of your reeds. And, I also want to say the reed cap. One last thing. I keep remembering things. You want to, this is my reed cap. And even if I had I'll show you with a different ligature too. So this reed cap goes to protect the mouthpiece. You just put it on like that. And anytime you're not playing and you're walking around, you should put your reed cap on. If you need to go walk somewhere with your instrument, put the reed cap on. Because not only do you want to protect your reeds, you want to protect your mouthpiece. Because if this gets a chunk out of it, you drop it and it breaks, then you got to buy a new mouthpiece. You can't play without a mouthpiece. Okay, and if I have a different ligature on, remember the ligature screws point to the right. If I had it the other way, it won't go on all the way. Right? And the ligature screws on this type, they go on the bottom, but on this type, they went on the top. The screw was on the top. Okay, but if your screws are on this side of the mouthpiece, then you would just flip that around so that this opening part of the mouthpiece, or the cap right there, goes by the screws. All right? Long video, but very important. You need to take care of your instrument. Congratulations for making it to the end of the instrument maintenance video. Go eat a cookie or something for celebration. But don't play your instrument after you eat a cookie. Then you could be getting cookie in your instrument. And that's bad. So wash your mouth out and then play.